let's step back in time. Long before hydrophones and submarines, sailors already spoke of monstrous sea creatures, and one of the most famous was the Leviathan. The Leviathan appears in ancient texts, most famously in the Hebrew Bible. Described as a terrifying sea serpent or dragon, it was said to be so large that it could swallow ships whole. Its scales like armor, its breath like fire. For centuries, the Leviathan became a symbol of the unknown terrors of the ocean. Medieval maps often decorated unexplored waters with illustrations of monstrous serpents, a warning to sailors venturing too far. But could Leviathan have been inspired by real creatures? Some historians think so. Giant whales surfacing suddenly beside small wooden ships could easily be seen as monsters. Sperm whales in particular, with their massive size and strange square heads, may have inspired the legend. Others point to giant squids, which can grow over 40 feet long. In an era before science, seeing the tentacle of a dead squid washed ashore could easily become the tale of a world-devouring serpent. Even today, some connect the Leviathan myth to unexplained sounds. When people hear recordings like the bloop, their minds leap back to the same ancient fear, that maybe these monsters weren't just myths. The reality, of course, is that Leviathan is a blend of mythology and misinterpretation. But it represents something deeper, humanity's instinct to fill the unknown with monsters. And when the ocean itself seems to groan, quack, or sing in ways we can't explain, it's easy to understand why those legends never died. If there's one sea monster that has captured human imagination more than any other, it's the Kraken. For centuries, sailors told stories of a beast so massive it could pull entire ships under the waves. Tentacles rising from the deep, wrapping around masts, dragging men screaming into the sea. The Kraken legend comes mostly from Nordic folklore. Early accounts describe it as a creature the size of a floating island, often mistaken for land until it began to move. Fishermen feared casting their nets too close, because when the Kraken descended, it created a whirlpool that sucked boats into the abyss. But where did this story come from? Most historians now agree that the Kraken was inspired by giant squids. These deep-sea creatures can grow more than 40 feet long, with eyes the size of dinner plates and powerful tentacles lined with hooks. For a sailor in the 16th century, encountering a giant squid in open water must have been terrifying, especially since the animal would surface suddenly, thrashing and flailing. One famous account comes from 1873, when fishermen off the coast of Newfoundland fought a giant squid that had wrapped its tentacles around their boat. They managed to kill it, and pieces of the creature were later studied by scientists, confirming that such enormous squids were real. Now, how does the Kraken connect to mysterious ocean sounds? When hydrophones pick up strange, booming, or pulsing noises, it's easy for people to imagine they come from some colossal squid lurking in the abyss. Even today, giant squid remain elusive. We've only captured them on video in recent decades. So while the Kraken is myth, the inspiration behind it is very real. And in the vast darkness of the deep, who's to say there aren't even bigger cephalopods waiting to be discovered? If the Kraken is folklore, then Cthulhu is pure fiction. Yet its influence on how we think about ocean monsters is enormous. Created by horror writer H.P. Lovecraft in 1928, Cthulhu is described as a vast, tentacled, dragon-winged creature sleeping in the sunken city of R'lyeh, deep beneath the Pacific Ocean. According to Lovecraft's stories, Cthulhu can influence human dreams, driving people to madness, and when it awakens, it will bring about the end of the world. What makes Cthulhu so chilling is not just its size, but its alien incomprehensibility. It represents the idea that the ocean and the universe itself holds forces far beyond our ability to understand. Now here's where things get interesting. When the NOAA discovered the mysterious bloop sound in 1997, some fans quickly tied it to Cthulhu. Why? Because the location of the sound in the Pacific Ocean was close to where Lovecraft had set R'lyeh. It was almost too perfect, a cosmic coincidence that fueled endless speculation online. Of course, scientists later revealed that the bloop was caused by icebergs, but by then the idea had spread. For many people, the ocean's strangest sounds became linked in their minds to this fictional god monster. And that's the power of Cthulhu. Even though it's imaginary, it has become a modern myth, shaping the way we think about sea mysteries. Whenever we hear something strange in the deep, part of us wonders, what if Lovecraft wasn't writing pure fiction? What if he was tapping into something real? Now, let's fast forward to modern times again. In the 1950s, U.S. Navy hydrophones in the Pacific began picking up a strange, cartoonish noise. Boing, boing, boing. It was rhythmic, repeating, and unlike anything the researchers had heard before. The sound was so bizarre that scientists literally named it the Boing. For decades, nobody could explain it. Some thought it was mechanical, maybe an experimental sonar or submarine signal. Others speculated it was geological, like bubbles or underwater echoes. But as usual, the answer turned out to be biological. In 2002, scientists finally identified the source: minke whales. Minke whales, much like the bioduck mystery, were responsible for this odd sound. For reasons we don't fully understand, they produce strange boinging calls during certain times of year, possibly related to mating. The funny thing is, even after identifying it, researchers still don't completely know why minke whales make such an odd sound compared to other whales. It remains one of those quirks of nature that makes the ocean feel mysterious, even when we know the source. So while the Boing isn't a sea monster, it shows how alien the ocean can sound to human ears. A natural whale call turned into decades of speculation simply because it didn't match anything familiar. Across the seas of Japan, sailors feared a spirit known as the Umibōzu. The name literally means sea monk, and that's exactly how it was described. A giant, shadowy figure with a round, bald head, rising suddenly from the ocean waves. Its appearance was said to be an omen of disaster. Some stories claimed it capsized ships instantly. Others said it demanded offerings from sailors, and if refused, would drag them beneath the sea. The Umibozu legend may sound strange, but think about the psychology of ancient sailors. You're traveling at night under moonlight, with the ocean reflecting shadows all around you. If a sudden storm brews and giant waves rise, your mind might easily imagine the outline of a head, a figure watching you. Some historians suggest Umibozu stories may have been inspired by natural phenomena. For example, rogue waves, massive sudden walls of water that appear out of nowhere and can sink ships. Whales surfacing. In the dark, the smooth dome of a whale's head could look like a bald monk rising from the sea. Dark clouds forming at the horizon, creating shapes that resemble giant heads peering above the water. As for sounds, sailors often reported booming noises before Umibozu appeared. These could have been the roar of crashing waves or even whale vocalizations echoing through the wooden hulls of ships. So the Umibozu wasn't a real monster. It was fear, storms, and shadows personified. Yet the fact that Japanese folklore still remembers it shows how powerful the ocean's mysteries were for people whose lives depended on it.